to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Realtor listeners. Today I have Lois Koffi. Man, we just talked about this too. You know what? But that's what happens when you do things live. It just makes it that much funner. Anyways, we got Lois here. She is a transformational coach, author, podcaster, and like I say when I have people like Lois on the podcast, she has so many hats. We're gonna see where this goes. But thank you, Lois, for being here today.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I've lived maybe 10 lifetimes in 45 years. So,
well, I mean, all the platforms that you have seem like they have a common theme to them, kind of helping other people get to kind of where they want to get to, in essence, right?
Yes. Live their best life, their best health, their best wealth, their best wisdom, for sure.
Now, when I've had coaches on, because I've actually had a good amount of coaches on the platform, and the question I always ask is, what separates you from other coaches? So what separates you from other coaches?
Oh, that's such a great question. Gosh. I would say I'm more about a good balance of that masculine and that feminine energy. And what do I mean by that? As business owners, we've got to be able to trust our intuition, make decisions on our own, be creative as coaches, because I coach a lot of coaches. I'm a coach of coaches. Those are my favorite people to work with. Podcasters as well. They're very creative, right? They have all these lead magnets, all these creative ideas that they can have shiny object syndrome with, but then they don't have enough of the masculine energy where they execute, they take action, they get shit done, logic, numbers, time blocking. So I bridge the gap between both sides of the brain so that they can make more money in less time, have more fun, see their family, take vacations. You and I talked about that when you were on my podcast. And for me, work-life balance and designing a life, not just making a living, is really my passion. And everybody who knows me knows that, because I've been to the extreme side of workaholism, binge drinking, all of the things, and come back full circle. And so that's really my thing, is just making sure people are coming from both sides of the brain and living their best life as a result.
Something that I think popped up, because I've heard, I mean, of course, the idea, right? Left side, right side of the brain, right? Yet you talked about feminine and masculine kind of energy. I mean, can you kind of talk a little more about that and kind of what each side means?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's probably a little esoteric. And I like to also say another unique thing about me is I bridge the spiritual with the sales. Because I've studied so much about the brain, the subconscious mind, Bruce Lipton, there's a lot of buzz about all of that stuff, meditation, to think is to create, all of that. And to me, a lot of it is actually getting to be old school. Like, a lot of people have been so left brain, which is the masculine side, dominant for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's why people are so motivated by money, go, 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 push, push, push. And when you don't use the feminine side of the brain, it can really shut down your love, your compassion, your balancing, your center, and using your own creative juices, and as opposed to hiring a coach who just tells you what to do. A lot of people, they just want a coach to tell them what to do, and then they shut down that right side of their brain, which is the feminine side, and it really causes them to not get the results that they truly want. They're not as authentic, if that makes sense. And it's really, really a common theme that I see a ton in society. And so that's why I bring it up, even though it is a little bit esoteric. I worked with a spiritual mentor starting 18 months ago. And I know you talk about adversity, and he actually reminded me, because I knew this, that I was so stuck in the left side of my brain, which again is the masculine energy. And I don't mean male versus female. I want to be clear. It's just the masculine energy. We all have male and female inside of us, and so that's where that comes from. And he's like, Lois, you gotta get in the right side of your brain. And I read his book. It's called The Closet Spiritualist, and I was like, oh, so that's why I'm making tons of money, but I feel dead inside. And I was 18 months ago, I was a binge drinking workaholic, and I was really dead inside. No joy, no bliss, no authenticity, because for probably about a decade, I had been chasing the money and more in the logic and the numbers side of things. So I spent the last 18 months bringing back that intuition, that creative, that love and compassion, taking more time for spaciousness, more time for myself also. And before you knew it, boom, I came alive again. And so as a result of that adversity and relearning that, because I had it many, many moons ago in my 20s before some major trauma events happened that got me to get stuck in that left side of the brain. And now everything just flows. And that's what I want for people, because I see so many where I was 18 months ago.
Well, let's rewind. Let's go back to a young Lois. A young Lois. I mean, I guess that person that was using more the feminine side of the brain. Who was she growing up?
Yeah. So I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and I was definitely very spiritual, very, very balanced. Played sports. I was in music, right? So a lot of that music and art is part of that creative side of the brain. Growing up on the farm, you're out there getting dirty, putting your feet in the dirt and probably other places where I shouldn't have been, just play, fun, laughter, and tuning in with that side of myself. And then as I went to college, as I went into my 20s and I got into real estate, everything just flowed. Everything was easy. And I was a realtor who didn't work nights and weekends, made my first 6 figures working part-time, because I had a full-time job at a newspaper, which was, again, that was my creative side, right? So I was getting my creativity at the newspaper writing. And then I'd go maybe work 20 hours most mornings and a couple of maybe evenings or afternoons. And it was easy. And I think that's what I really want to help people do, is find that flow.
Well, okay. Well, what happened, right? So you said that on the farm, got into real estate, doing well, and then something happened that triggered you to go towards that more masculine side of the brain.
Yeah, environment is key. And I know you're a team leader and you understand the power of a team and environment and who you surround yourself with. And at that time, I had surrounded myself, in roughly 2005. I started surrounding myself with people who were very left brain masculine dominant. And that can happen easily in real estate. It can happen in any industry, right? Yeah. A lot of people were focused on the money, the numbers, having spreadsheets and all of that kind of stuff. And slowly over time, I didn't do as much of my creative stuff. The creative stuff started, I look back now and I can say this, at the time I had no clue what was going on with me, but my creative side, my right side, was going down, down, down. And I was more and more about the money. And sure enough, as a result, I put all my eggs in one basket. I had 3 real estate related companies by the end of 2005, beginning of 2006. And I was in Arizona at the time. So, like the movie, The Big Short, if you've seen that and what we experienced here in San Diego, it hit us really hard already in 2006. And because I had everything, in my name and all of the things with my business partners, my real estate investor partners and all of that, everything fell apart and I lost all 3 companies, had my bank accounts cleaned out, essentially became homeless, had my car repossessed the day before my 30th birthday, which was quite a gift to have. And I felt really, really bad, lots of shame, lots of worthlessness, lots of failure. And I made that event about me, that I did something wrong, that I was bad. And through that trauma, it actually re-triggered a lot of childhood trauma that I didn't even know was there. Abandonment, a lot of shame, separation, feeling like an outcast. And then that was the beginning. That was like 2008, when I really, really stayed then stuck in the left side of the brain more so. And then as I got married, had a family, you know, when you have a family and you got mouths to feed, whew, that's like heavy. Becoming a mom was really, really hard for me because I never had a mom. So it was like bringing all this stuff up, right, to the surface. And then because of that trauma, that fear, I stayed stuck in that left side of the brain. And believe it or not too long after I lost everything in the real estate crash, I had been writing. I had still been singing. That's the right side. I had love and compassion, but something started eating away at that. And I stopped writing one day. I stopped singing. And I could go on and on because there's more depth to that, but I want to give you time to maybe ask some more questions. But then I spent really up until about 2020, so about 12 to 13 years stuck in that imbalance, in that masculine, money-driven, numbers-driven brain, and it destroyed my marriage. I gained 30 pounds. And that's what led me to become a binge drinking workaholic. All of that. It wasn't an overnight thing.
Okay, so you lose everything. You're hurting pretty bad. You're trying to survive now, right? You just lost some companies. Are you staying in real estate? Are you doing 9-to-5 jobs? I mean, what are you doing to survive at that time?
Great question. Well, and this is the ironic thing. So one of the foreclosures that I had sold at a sheriff's sale, and I got 10 grand. And for better or for worse, I still split it with my partners, even though it was my bank accounts that got cleaned out. I was, integrity was everything to me. So I think I got maybe 3 to 4 grand to live off of for a year in Southern California. So
Wow.
that's when someone says it's too expensive here, Vinny, I tell them, dude, I was here when I had like maybe $3,000 to my name.
Well, wait. So did you have a place to stay, or were you staying at someone's house, or what were you doing?
I slept on my stepbrother's floor in PB for 3 months. That was intense. Bless his heart. I owe him so much, just gratitude for that opportunity, because I left Phoenix because I didn't have any place to live and I just needed a change. And so I came to California. Sleeping on his floor for 3 months was straining our relationship. And I've just remembered, hey, I have a friend who lives up in San Clemente, and I visited her, and divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. She's like, hey, I have a room to rent for $300 a month. I'm like, and I had just gotten, that 3 grand. And I tried applying for work. I tried waitressing. It was the recession, though. Everyone was applying for everything by that time. It was, I want to say it was the second half of 2007. And I wasn't even getting a waitress job. So my passion actually was transformational sales coaching, what I'm doing now. I started doing that, but it was really, really, really hard work, really getting my name out there with no marketing budget, with no car. For a while, all I had was a bicycle, right? So I was doing my best, but then over time, I met my husband, we got married, I had my firstborn child, and I completely pivoted away from my dream, also because I had some people in my life who said, well, who's going to listen to you, Lois? You just lost everything. So I had these negative people in my life that I gave my power away to, and just my path diverted into a different direction altogether.
Well, and I think that's probably, a good point. Where was the power coming from, the mindset coming from, where you felt confident enough to help other people out when you were in such a low moment in your life?
Where did that confidence come?
Yeah.
I gotta say it was divinely inspired, like from within, the phoenix rising from the ashes. Because I was training salespeople in real estate, and I had a sales team, and I wanted them to be balanced. I wanted them to live their best life, right? Because in sales, a lot of times people, it can be rocky, especially in those first few years. So I knew I had the skill set 10 years of sales by that point. And I wanted to make sure that people started off. And so it just came from within. It came from my heart, my purpose, my passion. But it wasn't meant to be at that time.
Well, now, and you're talking about coming within, and you brought up some, I guess, milestones and things that you have accomplished. Was it soaking in those accomplishments? Hey, I did this, so I can do this. I mean, was that kind of like, was the mindset in, all right, if I get questioned, hey, I already did this. I know I'm in a bad place. I can still do it again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I had actually, it's going to sound crazy, but I had never until then ever experienced failure.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I was an Ironman triathlete. I had completed 2 Ironman triathlons in that short period of time just before the recession. I'd coached thousands of people in health and fitness, done many marathons. I had even written a book about my journey in becoming an Ironman triathlete just before I lost everything. So I think by having enough of that right brain energy, enough of that heart, passion, creative side, and knowing what I had accomplished, I had enough confidence just from really those 10 years in business for myself.
Was there ever a moment in those 12 years of kind of working through it that you had to go back to read your own book?
Well, here's the thing. I think I was so stuck in my left brain, the analytical, the numbers, the money, that I didn't even want to read my own book.
Why?
There was no desire. There was no desire. I think there was that trauma that I was telling you about, the shame and the worthlessness and the failure. I made that about me, enough times to just not want to look back, even at the good stuff.
Now you're doing the coaching. You're still trying to figure out ways to make money. Now you're married. How are things progressing from there?
Yeah, that was interesting because I had some really intense times during the pregnancy. We got married and pregnant right away in our first year together, and it was really tough. I got really, really sick. And so when you're sick and pregnant for 8 months, all I could really do at that time was go back to my fitness coaching because that was easy for me. I had coached thousands of people, simultaneously while I was being a realtor. I was also a running coach and a triathlon coach because that's who I was. And so essentially giving birth and then going through postpartum depression on top of that, it was hard. It was really, really hard. So I did the simplest things that I could do. I stayed with fitness and health coaching. And then that's actually what I stayed with for several years after that. It was the path of least resistance. So I went with that. Because when you have kids, especially, well, I can only speak for women, it takes a lot of energy, and raising them and becoming a mom was really challenging for me, like I said. So it was a huge transformational experience. And I also know that it was meant for me to learn love and compassion and understanding for moms, parents, because I never understood what it was to be a parent until I became one, right?
You talked about the 12 years, right? And it sounds like for a big majority of that time, you were into the fitness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were doing that, the focusing on money. So did you have your own business or was it, okay, you did have your own business. Okay.
Yeah, I was part of a boot camp franchise for a while. That was actually pretty successful. Not as lucrative as real estate, of course, but it was pretty successful. It gave me the ability to be, my kids went to daycare, but I did definitely take care of them more so than I would have had I stayed in the real estate industry. But it was a lot of boot camps. Then it became one-on-one training. Then I did have a studio for a period of time as well.
Where does the drinking come into this? And yeah.
So ultimately, I would say I'm trying to think about it because I was never really a drinker. My brother died of alcoholism, so I was always mindful. And as a fitness person and health and fitness junkie, I went through my own journey of fitness addiction. I went through sugar addiction, coffee addiction. So I already understood the dopamine hits of life. And so by the time I'd say 2015, I was really getting into more working and more cell phone stuff, texting, Facebook. Oh my gosh. Part of my fitness journey led me to be a Beachbody coach. And we would have these Facebook challenge groups. And oh my God, it was like all day, all night, 7 days a week, you would be on Facebook. And I can say this now looking back. And this is actually also, what I create a very holistic approach with my clients because especially today, everyone is online, right? And they don't recognize, like I didn't at that time. I had no clue how much dopamine, which is like stress hormone, cortisol, was just fight or flight every day, every hour. I had some people that would be texting me 20 times a day. So right there, that's 20 dopamine hits. Then you'd go on Facebook and you'd have Facebook on your phone. You'd have these notifications, dopamine hits from morning, noon until night. And sure enough, by the time 4 or 5 o'clock rolled around, if I was at a networking event, and that's usually where I started that drinking habit was at networking events. Everybody had a drink in their hand. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds good right now. Because when you're up all day, how do you come down from that? And so drinking became, again, started around that time to be that wine o'clock, they call it, that later on in the day where mommy needs her sippy cup, or you come up with all of these excuses because society's got them written out there, marketing, media, socialization. So it was really a lot of networking events, socialization. And then I was in a part of a sales team who kind of had that work hard, play hard mentality as well. I got involved in the MLM industry, and it was again a product of the environment. And again, it all came from that left side of the brain being in the logic, the numbers, the go, the push. And I didn't have any of that other side of the brain working for me, which actually could have helped balance out a lot of that. But again, no one was teaching that. No one was talking about that. And it was meant for me to go through that experience so that I could understand and have love and compassion for myself. Because now I much, 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 much better understand people's struggles because of my own dark night of the soul journey.
The drinking was more of a way to relax, and it wasn't kind of a self-esteem or anything like that. Because one thing that I've had a lot of fitness people on here about, where they talk about that personal trainers, bodybuilders are some of the most insecure people out there. And so that wasn't your case. It was just more about kind of coming down.
Yeah. And I would say, and again, I don't know who's all going to see this. Whoever you are that knows me, I love you. This is not about you. Okay. I'm just being totally transparent because I know there's people listening that have had this journey. I think it wasn't about self-esteem. I do think at times it was also like, why am I here at this event?
Yeah.
Not knowing that, it was just a way to sort of have something to also do. Right. And so for me, it was, and it's funny that you said that because trust me, I've been to fitness conventions and wow, I was like, wow, you guys drink a lot. But it's that way at a lot of conventions too. So yeah, it's that work hard, play hard mentality.
I mean, I would never guess with a lot of these people that have some like the best bodies and they're just very insecure about it. And you're like, you look at yourself, right? Like that. But I mean, we all have our own struggles that we're kind of working through, right?
Oh yeah. And it's a form of approval.
Yeah.
And the more I study like drinking and things of that nature, because I really took it seriously when my brother died of alcoholism in 2020, I was at my own proverbial rock bottom and not even knowing it.
Well, what was that trigger? I mean, some people to transition, it's basically is the rock bottom, or it's basically, I mean, I don't know, that just that one moment. Was there that one moment that go, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? I need to switch it.
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, it was a trifecta of wake up calls. In December of 2019, one of my sweetest friends, she committed suicide. And then my brother died in February of 2020, and my mom died right after him in April. And so it slowed me down. And at the same time, I remember also when they died, each one of them, I didn't cry.
Why?
I was so numb. I was so numb to life. And I didn't know it. And something about that bothered me. Something said inside of me, you're not well. Maybe we should do something about this. And so I got back into my creative side. I launched my podcast, even though I was terrified about that. But I launched my podcast in July of 2020. My coach saw what I was going through, and he's like, I think you might want to read the book, The Surrender Experiment. And I read it, and it pissed me off. And he laughed. He's like, I think you got to keep reading. And I could have written that book. Like, that was me in my 20s. And I was like, oh yeah, surrender. Oh, that's right. Not trying to control every freaking thing about my life. I used to be able to do that. So it was like unpacking through a lot of little different conversations and events. And then eventually I met my mentor who wrote the book, The Closet Spiritualist, who I work with still today, who opened the door of saying what we started the call with, you're stuck in your left side of your brain. And I read his book where he goes over that. And I was like, oh, because I tried grief counseling. I tried psychotherapy. Those things just made me want to drink more because they weren't getting to the root cause of why. And so I was able to get to that root cause with the help of the surrender experiment, getting back into my creative side, understanding the left and right side of the brains. And then for me, last thing, the next step, I dove into the plant medicine world of ayahuasca and psilocybin to help me heal, to help me finally cry and grieve and purge and release a lot of those demons that were stuck inside of me.
Being that you've gone through so many coaches, leaders, mentors, and you've kind of like bounced from different ones, and you're in the field now kind of helping other people out. For people listening right now, what would you tell them to think about before they follow a mentor, follow a coach, and make sure that's the right person for them?
Wow. Well, if they would even allow you to do this, because most coaches, I've done it too. You put on this facade, like I have all the answers, hire me. This is my formula. But I would just really tune in when you're on a call with them and see if you can feel their heart and their authenticity. And if it feels more like a sales pitch or a scripted thing, just tune in, trust your intuition, trust your gut. And it's not about, do they have what I have, meaning money or success or the right way to build a program or anything like that. But just really tune in, ask them, what books do you read? Or, how do you spend your time? And this is me, of course, speaking because of my journey, is do you take vacations? Do you have a life? What else do you do besides coaching? Because that tells you a lot more what they do outside of their coaching than anything else. And if there's some commonalities there, I think that also helps. If you have some similar interests, I think that helps, because that was when I go back and I look back, my best coaches and mentors, we had some similar interests. Like we would go and do triathlons together. We would sweat together, not go and drink together, right? Again, this is me talking about me, but I think if there's some things in common, also it can really help. But a lot of times too, I didn't know what was missing from my life also. So that's why I'm happy to share my story, is because I needed to go through a lot of pain and suffering to find myself again. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that as a result of the pandemic.
And talking about that pandemic, this might be a harder question to kind of respond to, because we don't know what's going to happen with the outside environment. Yet, where do you see yourself, your business, your platforms in the next 5 years?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty clear on that. I'm building an online community. It's a membership subscription-based community called Mindset and Sales Mastery. I'd like to have it sooner than 5 years, but I'd love it to be thriving with 1,000 people that are all wanting to live their best life, to mastering this, and then selling with authority, excellence, love, and compassion. So, and then a bunch of offshoots from that, having other programs, small group, depending on what people want to do. If they want to do deeper dive work with me or some of my other coaches inside of the membership community, and then from that platform, that community, I'm also going to offer up in-person retreats. So like 7-day retreats, 5-day retreats, a lot with plant medicine, because I do believe plant medicine is some of our best teachers. And for those who don't want to do plant medicine, I'll have other options as well. But again, all of it will be like hands-on, in-person, health and wellness and sales coaching all combined to help them really have an experiential in-person type of event to transform, heal any of those wounds, get their brain more balanced, help them with their sales planning, but also just help them to take time away and disconnect and not be on their phone or their computer for 7 days. That would be nice.
A hard addiction to get away from, exactly. Thank you, Lois, so much for being on the Road Growth podcast. If people are listening and they want to connect with you, hear more about what you have to offer, I mean, what's the best way of them finding you?
Yeah, the best way is simply loiskoffi.com. LOISKOFFI.com. And for people in your community, I would even gift them 1 free month into my membership. So I'll have a promo code for you, and you can feel free to share that if you'd like. And then my podcast is called Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. Vinny was on it, so it must be good, right? And so that's on YouTube as well as the iTunes platform as well. So I have a Facebook group if you want to find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I know you've got all of my links.
All the stuff. Yeah, all the stuff is in the show notes. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of platforms to find Lois. I mean, you could probably Google Lois Koffi and you're gonna find her. So yeah, but everything is in the show notes. So if you're having any kind of trouble, go in the show notes. I'm gonna finish up with one last question. Your 20-some-year-old self, that 25-year-old that was just crushing the business, real estate, I mean, was doing everything, succeeding in everything. How do you think she would be as a good mentee to you currently as a mentor?
Oh my God, she's always there. Yeah, I'm gonna start crying. Wow. She's already here.
Thank you, Lois. I appreciate, I mean, you walking us through your journey. I mean, I think for anyone listening right there, I mean, you can have all the success in the world, right? And we didn't even talk about it. You can have all the success in the world, but you're not going to know what truthfully that success is until you allow yourself to fail, right? I mean, Lois has been brutally honest throughout this podcast. There's probably so many more things that we could jump into right there, and we can talk about, oh, well, how much she learned from her failures compared to her successes. You know, we just didn't have time because there's so much to unwrap. Yet, whatever you're going through right now, you know, it might take you a week to get through. It might take you a month to get through. It might take you 12 years to get through, right? Yet, if you have the faith, if you have the mindset, right? And if you have a coach in your corner, which sometimes it takes longer for others to get there, right? You can get through whatever you're dealing with. There is going to be a brighter day tomorrow as long as you allow yourself to get there. Thank you guys for listening. Please, please go into the show notes, go find Lois, and please subscribe, please share, and tell your friends. Bye, everyone.